How do I know which bin to put away?
Welcome to SAP Visuals. Today we will learn about label printing for storage bins in SAP EWM. Have you ever wondered how the physical reality of a massive, bustling warehouse connects flawlessly to the digital brain of your SAP system? Well, you are in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we're going to break down precisely how you generate the labels that guide your workers, secure your inventory, and keep your entire supply chain moving efficiently every single day. Think about it. A warehouse without labels is, quite frankly, just a chaotic room full of boxes, right? The label is the anchor that holds it all together.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll dive into the core purpose of bin labels. Then, we'll look at the navigation for printing standard bin labels before shifting our focus to printing fixed bin labels. After that, we'll talk about customizing your Smartforms. And finally, we'll wrap up by executing the actual print request.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the purpose of bin labels, bridging the physical and the digital. So, the fundamental concept we really need to grasp first is the verification field. In order for warehouse workers to quickly and accurately identify storage bins, the physical label has to perfectly match the system. Obviously, it needs a human-readable bin name so a person can actually navigate there, but crucially, it needs this verification field, which is usually printed as a scannable barcode. Let's look at a simple, easy example to see how this works in practice. Imagine a worker is instructed by their mobile device to physically find aisle 4 bin 20. When they walk over to that location, they simply scan that barcode, the verification field, to essentially tell the system, yep, I am exactly where I need to be. It confirms the system match instantly. But why is this so absolutely critical? Well, without this verification field, you're relying entirely on human sight, which inevitably leads to mispicks. A worker might grab materials from aisle 4 bin 21 by mistake. And that simple error creates an inventory discrepancy in SAP, leads to delayed shipping for your customer, and costs a ton of time to investigate. This one little barcode acts as the ultimate, non-negotiable failsafe for warehouse accuracy. Moving right along to section 2, printing standard bin labels and the basic navigation required to get there. The crucial point here is knowing exactly where to go in the SAP Easy Access Menu to trigger this whole process. It's actually a very logical flow. You start by opening the Extended Warehouse Management folder, drill down into Master Data, open up Storage Bin, and finally select Print Storage Bin Label. This specific sequence is your standard navigation to get the printing process rolling for everyday bins. Now, you might be wondering, why is this buried deep under Master Data instead of a daily operational folder? It's because in SAP EWM, storage bins are considered foundational infrastructure. They're the permanent digital geographic coordinates of your warehouse, not fleeting transactional data like a daily goods receipt. Understanding that hierarchy just helps you navigate the system so much more intuitively. Once you know that foundational path, there are two distinct sides to standard printing. On one hand, if you prefer fast keyboard shortcuts over clicking through a bunch of folders, you can just type in the direct transaction code /SCWM/PRBIN. That gets you straight to the label selection screen in about 1 second. On the other hand, we have the standard Smartform provided by SAP /SCWM/BIN_label. For anyone who might be a bit newer to SAP architecture, a Smartform is basically the underlying structural template. It dictates exactly where the barcode goes, where the text sits, what font size is used, and how your margins are set up. The system basically pulls the master data from your bin and pours it right into the Smartform mold. This specific form is the default out-of-the-box template that determines how your standard label is formatted when it actually prints onto the physical sticker. That brings us to section 3, printing fixed bin labels, and why we add product identity into the mix. Sometimes when you have storage bins assigned as fixed bins for specific materials, standard labels just might not give you the full picture. Fixed bin labels typically include the product identification printed directly on the sticker. Let's use another really simple, easy example. Imagine you have a dedicated permanent fixed bin specifically for blue pens. Since absolutely nothing else will ever go in that particular bin, it is completely reserved. It makes total sense to print blue pens and its unique material product ID right there on the label alongside the bin number. Think about the real-world efficiency gain from this. Instead of a worker scanning a bin, looking down at their RF device to see what belongs there, and then looking back up at the product, the label provides an instant visual confirmation. It saves precious seconds on every single pick or put-away transaction. And when you multiply those saved seconds by thousands of warehouse tasks a day, your operational efficiency literally skyrockets. Because this serves such a highly specialized operational purpose, EWM provides a specific transaction just for it. Now, the SAP Easy Access Menu path is exactly the same as the one we used for standard bins. Extended warehouse management, to master data, to storage bin, and finally print storage bin label. However, if you're using the transaction code shortcut, it does change. For fixed bins, you're going to enter /SCWM/PRFIXBIN. That FIX right there in the middle is your key difference. SAP deliberately separates these into two different transaction codes rather than cramming them onto one combined screen, mostly to protect the data. It prevents users from accidentally overwriting standard bin printing logic with fixed product logic, which maintains strict control over how different areas of your warehouse are labeled.
Naturally, because we're printing extra information, like that specific product ID and material description, SAP provides a unique standard smart form designed strictly for fixed bin storage labels. That form is /SCWM/FIXBIN_LABEL. It's pre-configured right out of the box to handle that extra material data seamlessly. And honestly, utilizing standard smart forms like this one, whenever possible, saves massive amounts of development time during an initial EWM implementation. Instead of paying developers to code a layout entirely from scratch, you can deploy this standard form immediately and keep your project timeline perfectly on track.
Okay, moving into Section 4, customizing your smart forms, or basically tailoring your labels to fit your exact needs. What happens if you need to tweak the design? Well, you'll use Transaction Smart Forms. This is the dedicated SAP tool used to create entirely custom forms or just to enhance those standard layouts we just discussed. In the real world, this kind of customization is incredibly common. For instance, you might need to adjust the dimensions of the label to fit specific Zebra or Honeywell printers being used out in your facility. You might need to add specific hazard symbols for chemical storage bins, or perhaps your facility requires different barcode symbologies altogether, like moving from standard 1D barcodes to more robust QR codes that hold extra data. Transaction Smart Forms is where all of that design magic takes place. Once you build your perfect, tailor-made label design in this transaction, you simply assign your new custom form name within the main printing transaction, and the system will automatically use your personalized template instead of the standard default. And finally, we arrive at Section 5, executing the print request and officially creating the output. When you finally execute either of the print transactions we've explored, you'll be immediately met with a final selection pop-up screen. Think of it as your absolute final checkpoint before committing to physical ink and paper. In the Print Parameters section, you must define the output device. This is exactly where you tell the SAP system which specific physical printer, located somewhere out there on the warehouse floor, should handle the actual print job. You'll also see the form name field, which verifies you're using the correct Smartform template we were just talking about. Down in the Spool Parameters section, you control the crucial back-end execution details. In SAP, a spool request is basically just a document sent to the printing queue. Here, you can define exactly how many copies of the label you need generated and whether the system should push it to the printer immediately or maybe hold it in a queue until the supervisor is ready to release it. To wrap up the execution, the process is incredibly straightforward and highly sequential. First, you specify your output device, your chosen warehouse printer. Next, you enter any necessary spool request data, like dialing in the exact number of copies. And lastly, you must select either the print button to send it straight out to the warehouse floor or the print preview button. Honestly, that print preview button is an incredibly valuable tool. Checking the preview before executing a massive mass print of, say, 5,000 new bin labels for a warehouse expansion can save an enormous amount of expensive label stock. But more importantly, it prevents absolute logistical nightmares out on the floor if a barcode alignment happens to be slightly off and totally unscannable. It is always, always worth taking that one extra second to hit preview. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. How much time, money, and accuracy could crystal clear, perfectly customized bin labels save your entire warehouse operation? When your physical storage space perfectly mirrors your digital SAP system through scannable, well-designed labels, the efficiency gains you can achieve are truly massive. It ultimately bridges the gap between what the computer thinks is happening and what the worker is actually doing out on the floor.
Thanks for watching SAP Visuals.